What up, though, people? It is a victory. Woodward Pistons Wednesday. I'm so elated right now. That win last night for the Detroit Pistons was so crazy. It was wild. That's what I can say. And you know what? A win is a win is a win is a win is a win. We got the hat on for the victory show. It's your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, your credentialed Pistons reporter, writer for the network. Welcome back, Flannel Sam! It's another victory, man. Glad to have you back, brother, on the show. We got Hoodie Flannel in the hoodie. I don't know what do we call him?
Right?
Hoodie what? It's that Hoodie Flannel.
I am representing
Hoodie
Woodward
Sam?
Sports, so like if I'm not gonna wear a flannel, it's got to be something like that. But yeah,
Glad to have you back, bro.
I'll tell you what.
The vet of the squad, all sports, know everything. Let me give you your flowers.
Thank you.
Red Wings correspondent. Glad to have you back, bro, for real.
I am so happy the Pistons won that game last night. It would have been a really rough day for us Kate apologists if they hadn't. But you know what? What turnovers? And that's the thing. And I'm going to get into this really quick right now. They won the damn game.
Yeah.
They're 5-7.
Let's go.
I get that there were some. They tried to choke this game away badly, but they didn't. And any other team in the last 4 or 5 years would have crumbled. And this Pistons team, they held together. They were stayed stout defensively in overtime when they were committing all of those turnovers, particularly Cade. And they ended up winning the game thanks in no small part to Eric Spoelstra going Chris Webber. I did not have that on my. I did not have that on my bingo card.
Pass that shit off like it was legal.
It was wild. And it's like, you know what? This was a game where in overtime, JB Bickerstaff actually out-coached Eric Spoelstra. And it's like, you know the technical coach that Eric Spoelstra is, and he wants to win every single possession. Yes, we got the victory shades on, man. What a win, man. I'm taking. I know Jimmy Butler didn't play. I know he didn't play, but we've been there. We've done that. We've seen this before. We were in the building, boots on the ground, and the Pistons got sauced at the buzzer. I know you all said Cade left a little bit too much time on the clock, but last night was a win to me that showed that this team can play through adversity, that this team, like those Tigers, when they start to get hot, maybe they'll have some stretches where it looks really, really bad, but they've at least proved now for more than an eighth of the season. I'm going to continue to stress that. I want to see another eighth of the season go by, but through an eighth of the season, this team is 5-7. They dropped the game. They probably should be over 500. And we'll play the audio during our Woodward Pistons segment. Tobias Harris, he also believes that they should be over 500. He thinks that they've given up some wins this season.
They have, but I think every single one of us, if we would have been guaranteed 5-7 in the first 12, would have taken that, no questions asked. And the best start they've gotten off to in years, and just things look different. And you mentioned the angle, too. How did the Pistons tie the game? On a brilliantly designed play by JB Bickerstaff. And how did they end up winning? By Eric Spoelstra just calling a timeout. Eric Spoelstra calling a timeout he didn't have.
Rose was like.
And don't get me wrong, I think Eric Spoelstra is a little bit overrated, but he's still one of the best coaches in the NBA. He is still one of the best coaches in the NBA.
He just tossed him where he tossed Ben Wallace.
I would argue the opposite.
Underrated?
Yes. I do. I think he deserves a little bit more.
That's for
another day, though.
Overrated.
How many titles have the Heat won since LeBron left?
It don't matter.
I know. Heat culture. They get to be Heat culture even though they haven't won a championship in a decade.
This is on brand because he doesn't like Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is, Eric Spoelstra is the NBA equivalent of Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, not enough championships.
But always competitive, always a winning team.
He always coaches his teams up.
They've been to 2 NBA finals.
Right. I know, but they didn't win. They haven't won anything since LeBron.
They shouldn't have been in, just being real.
Fine.
One of those losses was to your guy LeBron, though.
He took Jimmy Butler to the finals. Like, what are we talking about here? What?
Was that Riley in 06?
It was Riley in 06.
Yeah, because Spo was like basically close behind, took over right after that. Yeah. Hey, but you know what? The Pistons won, so I don't even really care. This team is 5-7.
Yeah.
I used to harken back to this age-old stretch during the Jeremy Grant era of 10-14, post All-Star break in games they played and being the best stretch of basketball ever. And instead, the Detroit Pistons right now are saying, you know what? We know we've cost ourselves some wins. We're going to get this thing together. I'm hearing from some other people, and I've talked to some scouts, and they're like, you know what? Give this team some time to gel. It is a new squad, but that offense will get better. They do believe that the Pistons are going to get better, and that's my question to you guys, and I'll also ask Rod, is have your expectations changed from here? Do you expect them to be better? When we earlier in the season said playing Pistons, it was like, okay, now they're more than an eighth of the way through the season, and guess what? The East does not look the way that the East looked from before the start of the season, and the Pistons are 7th place right now. And if they would have won that Houston game, they would have been tied for 3rd. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's where the margins are, and we know that they've left games out there.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, man, expectations, do they change or do you hold steady? Mine were 28-30. I'm going to be convinced based on how you guys.
Oh, you finally coming up to 30.
You guys.
finally coming up to the 30 club.
Listen, chat family, I need to know as well. Have your expectations? Are you increasing your expectations for the Pistons or decreasing or staying the same? If we can get that in the chat, JB Smooth. Flannel Sam, I got to hear from you, man, because that was such a big win. I know we're going to digest a little bit more.
God, as far as expectations go, I had them at 32 before the season. But I'll tell you what, I don't think that the East is going to have almost their entire conference under 500 the whole season. I don't. But so far, in a not super small sample size, there's really just 2 teams that are playing well. I mean, one of them's playing really well, Cleveland, but then a lot of disappointments, a lot of teams that have started off slow, including the Miami Heat, for example. And the Pistons, they're just right there. They're in that mix. I don't want to say that right now it turns into play-in or bust. I've never been at that point, but 35 wins. You may make the play-in with 35 wins.
I told you.
Because I'll tell you what, a lot of these teams like Milwaukee, for example, Philly, Milwaukee, 2 great examples. I think that they've put themselves in a hole that they won't be able to fully climb out of. I know that it's just the beginning of the season, but especially with Philly, with Joel Embiid having to miss so many games because of his injury history, and Milwaukee just looks completely out of sorts. It doesn't look like Dame and Giannis get along, and Doc Rivers is their coach, which that in and of itself is a problem. I think 35 wins might get it done, and I think this Pistons team can do it. They've had a better 12-game stretch to start the season than I think anybody would have thought, and that's with leaving some games on the table.
Definitely, man. And you know what? Detroit's #1 draft pick in the sound booth, that is KG. What up, though, Black Hollywood?
Hey, man, I do agree with Sam. Maybe 35 gets it done, but my expectations don't change because
you were already there before the season, right?
Oh, well, part of that is the reason, but ultimately this is still a very, very young core, and not to say that I don't believe in what they're doing now. They are actually showing us that they are an improved team. They still have a long ways to go in terms of winning consistently. So if they were anything that they do, plus 35 wins or, circa a playoff, appearance, I'm cool with it. Like, it's an added bonus at this point. But for where they are right now and knowing that this roster is far from complete, I don't want to change my expectations just yet. But I'm happy in, with what we're seeing right now, and that it does appear to be an improved product. They're playing better defense. They got to get the turnovers under control. I know we laugh about it, but they have to if they want to continue winning. But ultimately, JB Bickerstaff has a plan, and he's executing it.
It's very fixable, too, because when you pinpoint it, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but Woodward Sports MVP in the TD booth, JB Smooth. I see the hat. Explain this one to me, man. Go Pistons.
I mean, you see the hat.
I see the hoodie, too.
You see the hoodie, too. Poison Ivy. Got to represent. It's also Woodward Sports as well, too. Head over to the shop to grab you one of these.
Hey.
But I got to rep the Bay as well, too. Clay came back to the Bay to take on the Warriors, and
I know you're a Steph. You are a Steph guy.
I am a Steph guy. It didn't go that way for Clay, but he tried. He had a good effort. I'll give it to him.
But what about those expectations, man, for these Detroit Pistons? They've gotten off to a start where fans in the stadium, being able to talk with them and such, and there's going to be some content that we start bringing to the platform where I'm talking to fans right there on the spot, man, and asking them each game just to kind of measure where they're at, their expectations as well. And you know what they're saying? They've been able to see the difference since the first preseason game. They've been able to see this thing, all the differences in each of the games, even how they respond to taking a big loss like to the Knicks, even how they respond to taking a tough loss, a very tough loss to the Houston Rockets, and still being able to bounce back and win the game like they did against the Heat. So talk to me, JB Smooth, about your expectations for these Pistons now.
My expectations still haven't changed. I feel the same way as KG. Like, I still need to see the consistency going on. I do see a change in this team, but I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon and sit here and say, oh, 40 wins, play in, playoff, all the other stuff like that. It's still at that 35 wins for me. You have to show me a little bit more that you can consistently win night in and night out, and this week will probably test that as well to them. But as of right now, my expectations have not changed. I'm still steadying the ship, and hey, 35 wins for me.
Hey, Pastor Kavasi, yay. Hey,
did you see it? Did you see it?
Hey, what up, though?
Hey, what up, though? How's it going? Good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are having a good Wednesday. Give the like button some love. We got our guy Sam back in the studio hanging with us again.
Brown sugar on his
What'd you say?
He got to do for brown sugar on his
That's Leon.
Win their group to advance to the next stage of the NBA
It is
Cup.
Emiratis NBA Cup in-season tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got the next 6 weeks. It's going to be ongoing throughout
That's
the regular season. So, I mean, they've been playing really well defensively. We know this team has stepped up tremendously from where they were last year. Hopefully, we'll see the veterans like Tobias Harris step up, and hopefully guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. get healthy, because last night was a little unfortunate and pretty scary to see. But seems like he's heading in the right direction health-wise after his little incidents on the court. So, I mean, this team has played really well, and I think Spencer, our guy Spenmo Rax, has like a plus 600 something like odds on the 35 wins for this season. And I think that guy's going to cash in and continue his hot streak of hitting his bets, because the Pistons are playing really, really tough.
And you know what the formula is? It continues to be the same thing. We know that Cade's going to do it all, including sometimes turn that ball over a little too much, which is the criticism that I have to bring up. He has to get that under control. And this is the reason why. We know how good he's going to be. Mm-hmm. We already know that. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in double figures. When you go back and you look at their wins, you're seeing 6+ players in double figures in almost every single one of their wins. And that's the thing there. So the more opportunities that Cade has with these players, that, they have been a little bit up and down, but these vets have still brought more overall this season to this point than we saw the vets of old. I want to see Cade be able to best capitalize on it. And this is just as it relates to wanting to see this team and these players really be able to capitalize on this hot start.
Yeah. No, and even
or decent start.
Sure. Hot start for recent Pistons teams.
Thank you.
That's a for sure. But Cade, the overtime turnovers, they were bad. Yeah. That's why if the Pistons would have lost, I would have had to be dodging a lot of slings and arrows as a Cade apologist, and I would have had to give him some criticism, because that wouldn't have been acceptable. But they did get the win. He still had the first 5 Pistons points in overtime and had that assist on that Duren lob on that JB Bickerstaff design play.
Nice.
And honestly, one thing that I also want to bring up, and I hate to play the if game, is that it should have never been in overtime in the first place. Nope. And it wasn't Cade that cost him down the stretch. It was, Ivy had an offensive foul. You had Beasley with a turnover. You had Tyler Hero absolutely go God mode and hit 3 consecutive threes in 30 seconds. And then Cade, of course, he had the turnover when it was already tied. But it should have never gotten to that point. But that being said, Cade did not have his best overtime. He did some really nice things. He had the big assist. He had 5 points. But those turnovers, he's got to clean that up. But I love to see the team pick him up a little bit after they let him down against Houston. Yeah. So everything evens out.
It does. It does even out. And that's just to make sure that people know we do see it. We do know that it's something he has to improve on, and it's something that Cade Cunningham says as well. He says that the turnovers is not winning basketball. Yeah. That means that even though they can win some games here and there, it's not going to be sustainable, and it's not going to get them to where they want to get. I see a squad right now that has a little bit different fire in their eyes, and they want to be able to not shock people, but go out there and cash in on how good they believe they can be this year.
Yes.
They haven't really gone out there and put expectations as it relates to wins out there. But kind of reading between the lines, being in some of these press conferences, you can tell they just want to go out there and hoop. They want to go out there and win, and they want to go out there and impress the Detroit crowd. It was interesting to see the type of crowd that was at the game yesterday, because it was a very nice environment. If you guys see the clips that were posted to Woodward Sports, you go back and you look at the highlights, it wasn't sold out, but it was a really nice environment, and those fans were invested. And there were Miami Heat fans that were there that were screaming at the top of their lungs. And I was like, there's too many Heat fans here. And then out of nowhere, the Pistons fans started booing and chanting Jared Goff and then chanting Go Pistons and all of that type of stuff. And I was like, oh, man, We got to get back to this. I remember the Palace of Auburn Hills. We have to get back to this.
Yeah.
Detroit deserves this, man. Just driving down Woodward last night, man, I put that video up and it blew up on socials. Like, we need this. We deserve this. It would be so perfect, especially as we talk about this October in the D. Our teams really kind of having this revival, man. Is it real?
Hey, that's I think that's something that we're going to get Rod Beard's opinion on as well, because I would love to hear that. But we got to talk about a team that is already loving us back fully for all the love we've invested in them, and that is the Detroit Lions. But first, Kool-Aid, tell us about second best.
Hey, you know what? The Lions always satisfy my like button.
Oh,
Hey, but
watch
you know,
out. All right.
let me tell you about it. No apology.